So let's talk about consumerism. So essentially, consumerism is a societal force that preys on our insecure egos. Our ego, which fundamentally feels broken, separate, lacking, empty, and flawed. And consumerism is like this leech that latches on to this fundamental insecurity we carry around as human beings, and manipulates us into consuming and getting and attaining in order to feel like we're whole and we're worthy, and to put a band-aid over that existential emptiness that we tend to feel in this life.
So it assumes that we feel empty, and once you start with that assumption, then it's very easy to create a set of values that it can provide to fill that void, to fill that emptiness. In the case of consumerism, that comes from the idea that you can expand, you can feel a sense of belonging by purchasing, by doing, by somehow using the machine of capitalism or whatever. It doesn't really matter what social, political party it adheres to. Every ideology carries with it its own sense of the values that you should pursue. And if you do not know your own values, if you haven't really tuned into yourself and found what it is that you stand for, what it is that you value, the whole society is more than happy to provide you their own sense of values and what you should be doing and what you should be aspiring to. In this way, the ideology of consumption grows stronger, while you, in turn, your sense of self, at least, will grow weaker. And it grows weaker really because you've lost that sense of meaning that now the consumptive society is compensating for, or the values at least that they're trying to provide you.
This is where spirituality, true spirituality, is consumerism's worst nightmare, because it flies directly in the face of everything that consumerism stands for, which is emphasizing a weak, small, insecure, lacking self. Whereas spirituality encourages us to come into our self-sovereignty, to see our true and innate worthiness, to see that we're fine, we're okay as we are, and that's why spirituality really is quite revolutionary. Walking the spiritual path in this day and age is a revolutionary act. It goes against the status quo, and it really takes a rebellious spirit to walk this path, this transpersonal path.
Yeah, this is where it can all too easily be confused with spiritual materialism, which is basically consumerism masked or guised as spirituality. I mean, there's so many ways that you see it nowadays, and even like I'm saddened to see the Zen philosophy, which is so intricate, so wise, so mature, and it's reduced to little rakes and sand, or little CDs, or piles of rocks, or all these things that you see in many stores and that we attain, which is a healthy start. We have to take into account that we all start somewhere, and spiritual materialism is a starting point for many of us into a more mature form of spirituality. But it's also important to be very aware and discerning that we shouldn't get lost and should not confuse consumption of spiritual topics, tools, courses, labels, ranks, roles, identities, any of this with what the true goal, objective of spirituality is, in that it's being able to be more ensouled, more in the moment, more yourself.
When you think about it, ultimately it's in consumerism's interest to undermine spirituality as much as possible, both by using spirituality for its own purpose, for its own purposes, you know, in spiritual materialism, and also simultaneously in emphasizing this weak and reinforcing this weak, small, needy, broken self that needs to buy things and needs to consume in order to, you know, feel whole. And that's why true spirituality, authentic, real, down-to-earth, grounded spirituality is a big FU in the face of consumerism, because it's about finding that sense of innate wholeness, that innate worthiness, you know, coming back to your true nature, coming back to the core of your being, you know. Yeah.
That's right. It's a protest. It's a protest. It's a rebellion against the materialistic and reductionistic ways of seeing reality that we're sold by the consumerative, is that even a word? Consumptive way of seeing life, and that's the values that are really promoted in the society by our education, by our advertising, by our peers. You know, nobody really teaching you to go deeper, to truly go deeper beyond the surface types of materialism oriented ways of consuming spirituality. So when you're truly walking on the spiritual path, your very being becomes an act of defiance.